Welcome to Financial Planner. Well, we told you what is an IPO, what is an FPO. Now we have more to know about various public issue and how is it different from private placement, what is market capitalization, what is an issue price. Lot of things that we touched upon in our previous episode. This time we dig a more deeper, and joining us is Jayant Pai. Jayant, thank you so much once again for joining us. We discussed about FPO, IPO, various issues that can be sort of where investors can participate or be a part of. Now we talk about issue price. We touched a little bit upon it in the last episode. What really is an issue price?
I mean, in a nutshell, it is the price at which the company offers the shares to the investors.
Okay, but so when we see this entire hoardings across, when we talk about X and Y is coming up with an IPO, there is a face value of say 10 rupees, and then there is a price band of X to Y, say suppose 100 to 200. Now explain all of that.
Yeah, so in the olden days there were issues known as fixed price offerings, wherein the company decided that this is the rate that they want to approach the market with, and they will come and the people either apply or don't apply, so take it or leave it. Now we have another method, which is a better one, known as a book building process. So here the company, in consultation with the merchant banker, determines a price band within which they are willing to issue the shares. Okay, now as per SEBI, the rule is that the price band should be a maximum of 20% from the lowest one. So if you have a price of 80, so it should be 80 to 96, because 20% of 80. So that should be the price band. And then investors, they bid within that band. Okay, and then they arrive at a rate which is known as the cutoff rate. Okay, now usually institutional investors have a greater say in this. Because for retail investors there is an option known as investing at cutoff, because retail investors usually are not savvy enough to know what is the correct price. So once the institutions determine that, the retail investor usually applies at the same rate that they have applied for. So this is the process which has been going on for the past few years. So again, the term face value is a misnomer. It's absolutely irrelevant, because in the olden days definitely there was this concept of coming out at face value. Today very few offerings are made at the face value, which is usually 10 rupees. But even now the face value itself is changing, because 1 rupee, 2 rupees, there are different companies with different face values.
So it looks like it's a cheaper offering, but perhaps the offering is not on the 10 rupee value, but there is a completely different pricing that we are talking about, and that is the focus that needs to be there. Whether the value, when we say whether the price at which this particular company is offering its shares is right or is low or too high, is dependent on not the face value. It's basically dependent on the price band and the cutoff decided, right?
Price band and the valuation metrics, whether it's a PE, price to book, all these things are something which you should see nowadays, not just the nominal value.
Okay, well, we'll get on to that as well in detail and more simpler way, because PE and all are something that, investors really don't understand. I mean, a person who's wanting to be a part of this basic learning school. Next part is about market capitalization. We discussed about this also in our previous episode based on a query of a viewer, that what is large cap, mid cap or whatever. So market capitalization is also helps determining the large cap, mid cap scenario.
Yeah, in fact it is based only on that.
Okay.
Now how you determine within that is left to each one. So you might have, as I mentioned earlier, an absolute cutoff that all companies with a market cap above a certain amount are large caps and others are mid and small caps. Or you can have a relative, because the market cap itself keeps changing every day. So you can have a relative that at any point of time the top 50% of companies are large cap and others are mid and small. So, and within that there is a certain one more nuance, is that the difference between an unadjusted market cap and a free float market cap. So unadjusted is a very easy calculation, number of shares into the current price, but the free float excludes the promoter shareholding.
Okay, so what you're saying, and we discussed it also earlier, is that a market capitalization essentially is the number of shares of a company, right, based on price, right, current price. Now, as the adjusted one that you're talking about is essentially the entire shares of the company with price, okay?
No, it is entire shares minus the promoter shareholding.
Is the adjusted one.
Yeah, that is the
and the free float is essentially that promoters also included in those shares?
No. By adjusted I mean free float, and the other option is unadjusted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the unadjusted one is that where
full.
the complete company's shares along with the price of at the current level.
Yeah.
So okay, just to sort of summarize it, unadjusted is when there is complete all the shares of the company along with the current price.
Yeah.
Adjusted or free float is all the shares except the shares held by the promoters
Yeah.
into the current price,
Right.
and that gives us the market capitalization that also forms the basis of large cap, mid cap, small cap that we
Yes.
keep hearing about.
Yeah.
Now let's go on to another part, which is about the difference between public issue and private placement. What is that?
Okay, public issue is where you are offering your shares to a diffused set of new investors. So there could be a mixture of mutual funds, insurance companies, so institutions, plus the retail. So you have in the IPO you have X amount reserved for retail, X amount for so-called HNIs. So this is a public issue where you approach a different several categories at the same time. In a private placement, it is not so. You are approaching only one major investor at any point of time. So if you want to issue fresh shares, you will approach either a strategic partner who will take a large stake in your company, or even the promoters themselves may offer shares, allot shares to themselves. So the difference in the two is that in terms of disclosures, because since the lay public is not involved in the second part, disclosures are less onerous. You have to make only cursory disclosures. But in the first one, you have to have that tome called DRHP.
Okay. Now, you touched also upon the fact about who decides the price of an issue. But tell us more in detail, how does that arrive? How do we decide that, a company decides that, okay, my face value is 10 rupees, but my price is, say, about 100 to 200, or price band, sorry, or it's about 250 to 300 or 70 to 80. Right. How is that decided upon?
Okay, like first this is done in consultation with the merchant bankers. Now beyond that, see, every company operates within a certain universe. For instance, if you are a software company, there will be other software companies whom you can benchmark yourself against, or with the investors will benchmark. So you look at their valuations. So this is known as a peer valuation. So how they are being valued, you try and value it at that rate. Okay, but often you may have to give a small discount. So if they are valued at, say, 10 times PE, you may give your investors at 8.5 times, because they also should make some money on listing. So this is one of the metrics. And price to earnings, price to book of the others in your industry. This is a very important way of valuing. Other one is how many shares are you diluting. For instance, if a promoter is diluting a lot of shares, they might want an extra premium because they're giving up control to some extent. So then they might ask for a higher this, but basically it's what the market can bear.
Okay.
So that
it's dependent upon, like, in the current market scenario, the lower the price band is, the better the option
in today's time,
could be that people would be wanting to invest. And also you get a sense from various investors and your institutional investor, where you get a sense at what would be the pricing that would be really looking really something which will be absorbed by the market, whether it's institutional investors or retail investors.
Yeah, so that's why merchant bankers often approach institutions privately before they come out on a roadshow. So, and they gauge the market, they gauge the pricing beforehand also. So this also happens.
Okay. Well, Jayant, on that note, we'll take a break right here. We'll be back. We'll be addressing some of the queries of our viewers. We'll be taking up their portfolios, helping them make their financial plan when we return. So don't go anywhere.
The Financial Planner, presented by the Bombay Stock Exchange, IPF.
Welcome back to Financial Planner. It's that time that we take up your queries.
Investment Ladder, presented by the Bombay Stock Exchange, IPF.
Query that we have today is from Siddharth Parmar from Mumbai. He's 26 years of age and he's from Mumbai. He's a professional. He's married and his wife is not working. She's still studying right now for her PhD. He's given a detailed chart and detailed questions for us to address. Firstly, his monthly salary is about 60,000 rupees. Right now, he has 3 SIP of 1,000 rupees each. He's given the funds, which is HDFC Equity, Top 200 and HDFC Mid Cap Opportunities Fund. He is also a life insurance policy, which he's paying up early premium, which is for 17 to 18 years, which he purchased only last year. His wife also has a policy, again for the same period of time, which was purchased, this year. He's currently invested about 75,000 rupees in stock markets, and he wants to, however, exit from here and invest in gold ETF of mutual fund. And he has about 75,000 in gold ETF as well. For monthly expenses, he's paying about 20,000 rupees per month for rent in Mumbai, 15,000 rupees for credit card bill, and some other expenses for around 5,000 rupees. He has a very big family and everyone is working, but I have to spend around 40,000 for them is what he has put out. Now he has also sort of put out various things that he requires to do. Number one, he wants to purchase one car around 6 lakh in 1 to 1.5 years. Okay, so let's go about one by one to his queries. Okay. Number one, we've got a detail about his entire portfolio. While I'll go into specifics later, but for the interest of most viewers who will be watching us, one thing that I found very peculiar about is that while he has taken conscious call in investment, he's invested in SIP in all in concentrated one fund house.
Yeah.
Which is not
really
for him, right.
All three are good funds.
They're all good funds, but all eggs in one basket is not right all the time.
Yes, so that he could diversify a bit. In fact, he could, but all three are doing well. So I don't know, but don't redeem what he has, but stop SIPs at least in a couple of them, and then invest in a couple of other good fund houses. That can be one way. Okay.
As far as insurance cover?
Again, I am a big believer in term insurance. So both these are investment oriented policies where you have to pay a high premium for a low cover, and both these are also debt oriented policies. So I don't think, but again with such policies, since you have got into them, I suggest you either at least pay for the 3 to 4 years and then don't redeem it, just convert it to a fully paid policy.
Okay, let's go on to his requirements very quickly. He wants to purchase the one car. How?
Yeah, now he's saying that he's not very comfortable with those stocks. So presuming the value of those is 75,000 today. Okay, and also his gold ETFs, I mean, if it has already run up quite a bit, so he could book some profit. So if I assume that he'll sell both those things, he'll accumulate 1.5 lakhs today. Okay, which he can just keep it in a short-term debt fund for a year because he wants to buy this car after a year. So he'll get around 10-12,000 rupees as interest. It's not a big amount. So if he has to borrow, suppose the car is 6 lakhs and he has 1.5, so if he has to borrow 4.5 lakhs for the car, so then based on today's rates of around 11.5%, his EMI for the car will come out to around 14,700. Okay, so if that's affordable for him, then he should do that.
But he can also postpone it because it's not really a necessary.
No, I would say based on his other pressing needs, I think a car is definitely not a priority from what I see. But in case he does want to do it, so this is one option.
As far as his home loan, he wants to take a home loan of around 50 lakhs after some 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, again I hope, I mean now if he takes a car loan, I suggest that he repay that completely and then go in for a home loan, because otherwise the credit score will be affected. Okay, so then now let's look at both the angles. Like whenever a company, an HFC, a housing finance company gives you a loan, they look at two things. One is the value of the house and your income, whether you are able to bear the EMIs. So now in his case, if he does get a loan of 50 lakhs, that means he can buy a house of around 62 lakhs because normally 80% is funded. Okay, so that's a good thing. But then his EMI will come to around 58,000 based on today's rates of 11.5. Now 58,000 is too high because even if I assume that his income goes up by 8% a year, it will be around 88,000 only in another 5 years. At that rate, normally you get 40% of your income as a loan, because that is what the company looks at. So by that yardstick, around 35,000 only will be his EMI capability. So on today's interest rates, he can get a loan of only around 30 lakhs. So I guess he should tone down his expectations, because go in for a smaller house rather than overburdening himself.
Yeah, because I mean, at least at first is car and then it's home, and if home is obviously takes a precedence over a car, and in that case, you know, it will become too. I mean, it will the debt will pay heavily.
Yeah, but I'm assuming he's already paid the loan off fully. If you have a car loan outstanding, then certainly you should not take a home loan. Because, but I'm presuming he has paid off the full thing. But even otherwise, taking a 50 lakh loan will be too onerous for him, unless there's a market rise in his income.
Investment Ladder, presented by the Bombay Stock Exchange, IPF.
We'll have to take a short break, but we'll come back and address more queries of Siddharth, who's written to us very detailed about his portfolio. And other viewers, if you are also having a portfolio that you would want us to help you with, please do write to us. We'll be right back and addressing all the queries.
The Financial Planner, presented by the Bombay Stock Exchange, IPF.
Welcome back to Financial Planner. As always, to help all our viewers, we were discussing the case of one of our viewers who has given us various details about the financial plan that he's wanting to make and the goals that he's wanting to achieve. And let's now go across. Jayant, we were discussing about Siddharth Parmar. We've discussed about his loans. Now he wants to plan about his pension, which I think before everything else I should really appreciate, given at 26 years of age, he's already thinking about pension. That's a very good thought. That's coming into his mind. Your views on that?
Sure, it's a good thought. Only thing I suggest, he does not get trapped into these pension plans which are offered by insurance companies, because it's not just the product design which is faulty. It is also that any pension plan, you are allowed to withdraw only 1/3 of the money which is accumulated, and the balance is converted into a compulsory pension. Now we can replicate the same benefit by simply investing in a disciplined way through mutual funds. So since he hasn't outlined how much he wants and all that, I won't get into that. But as a basic principle, it is better to meet his pension requirements by beginning his investment today itself into a set of 2 or 3 good mutual funds.
Okay. Another thing, he says he has a requirement of about 1 crore rupees at the age of 45 to 46, which is another 20 years from now. Your views,
so this is very precise. So then if we just run a calculation, I mean, I've assumed around 11% per annum return. You know, if he does get that, then in 20 years, so then he should invest around 11,500 per month beginning today. Okay, so that he could split into 2 funds, say around 5250 into 2 different equity funds.
So what you're saying is 11,000 rupees is what he needs to start investing from today?
Yes, but of course,
and which he's right now doing about 3,000 rupees.
Yeah, it's too low. I mean, see, because from what I see here, his actual savings are around 20,000 a month, because monthly expense of 20,000 and credit card 15. Again, that's a discretionary spend. He can always cut down on that. And plus some other 5,000 expenses. Now this 40,000 is a bit puzzling, but even it's 40,000 a year, it's not a big amount. Okay, so if he has a lot of saving, like still 20,000 in savings every month, I think he should raise his savings rather than invest only 3,000 in funds.
Okay, and he's young, so you know, therefore Siddharth, it's very important. You're 26 years of age. If you consistently and in a disciplined manner invest money in equity market in a very disciplined manner, as Jayant was talking about, it's going to give you a huge advantage with you know, versus others who start planning for their investments really late. The good fact is that you've you know, discussed and you've are planning as far as your pension plans are concerned, but as Jayant was saying, for your you know, 1 CR requirement or 1 crore requirement in 20 years, you should or you need to increase it by about 11,000 starting today, and should work that out. Now the next question, Jayant, that he has is about his medical insurance from his company, which is of around 8 lakhs, and he doesn't have to pay anything. So I don't think so he has any other medical insurance other than he's relying on that, but that's not enough, right?
8 lakhs is decent, but of course that will be only available till he's working with this company. So you know, the moment he gives up, he'll have to give up this benefit also. So he could take a family floater for him and his wife, you know, for around say 5 lakhs or so. So that the premium for that is around say between 9 and 9,500 with most insurance companies.
Okay.
So I guess that could be a good option. Okay,
very quickly, he requires about 60,000 rupees per year for traveling and holidays.
Not bad. I mean, when you're young, you do want to do all this. But so what I suggest is, if he could do this right now, say within the next year or two, because once he takes on the home loan, then a lot of his income will go towards that. So, I mean, he could surely try and do that within, say, the next 2 years.
Should do that, but also increase the investment component.
Yeah, but of course
That's
this is very discretionary. So he should not really sacrifice other things and do this. That's what we feel, but it's up to him.
Okay. Well, his last question, he wants to invest in an FD or recurring deposit. He has to also increase his term plan, where and how I have to invest so that I can achieve my financial growth. We have expressed his, mostly addressed his questions and all that. But FD and RD, what's your thought?
I mean, an RD is better. It's like a disciplined SIP into a debt instrument. So that's also fine. And,
okay.
But I feel for longer term goals, RD is not enough.
All right. So, Siddharth, I hope we have addressed all your queries. And viewers, if you think that you also have any of these sort of problems that you're facing in terms of planning for your future goals and so on and so forth, please do share your details with us, and we'll be more than happy to address them on the show. And please give us your feedback on Twitter or just write to us on the email address that's flashing on your screen. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week.
The Financial Planner, presented by the Bombay Stock Exchange, IPF.